The way you treat yourself writes the invitation to how the world will treat you. If you walk like you are worthy, the doors that open will be made of gold. If you shrink, you'll be handed scraps and told it's a feast. The world reads your posture before it hears your words. You don't have to tell people you respect yourself. The truth is, your self-worth has a voice long before your mouth ever opens. It is written in the way you stand, in the weight of your gaze, in the ease or the hesitation of your handshake. It shows in whether your shoulders slump under invisible burdens or stay lifted as if carrying a crown. People are observant. Even those who aren't consciously studying you are taking notes. They notice whether you rush to fill every silence with nervous chatter, whether you avert your eyes when someone challenges you, whether you fold yourself small in your chair as though you are apologizing for existing. They notice if you always nod in agreement just to avoid conflict, even when your heart disagrees. Your self-worth is not something you announce, it is something you live. And the living of it becomes a silent announcement to the world about how you expect to be treated. Think of the difference between a fine piece of art displayed in a glass case under careful lighting and the same piece tossed in a dusty corner of a basement. It is the same piece, the same colors, the same strokes, but one display whispers precious while the other mutters forgotten. That's what your self-worth does. It frames you. It determines whether people approach you with care or with carelessness. And here's the thing, when you know your value, it doesn't mean you walk around with arrogance. True self-worth has no need for loud declarations or flashy performances. It's not in shouting, "I am worthy," at every corner. It's in the quiet refusal to accept less than you deserve. It's in your ability to say no without guilt, to walk away without bitterness, to hold your peace without feeling the urge to prove yourself. When you know who you are, you stop performing for acceptance. You stop tap dancing for validation. You realize that the people who are meant to walk beside you will recognize your worth without a sales pitch. And those who don't, well, their blindness is not your burden to carry. But here is where many people stumble. They try to demand respect without living as if they deserve it. You can't curse yourself in the mirror and expect the world to treat you like a masterpiece. You can't continuously say yes to people who drain you just to be liked and then be shocked when they take advantage. The respect you seek must first be given to yourself, or else every plea for it will ring hollow. Self-worth changes the way you move. It alters your tone of voice. You will notice that when you speak, you no longer rush to justify your existence. You say what you mean, and you mean what you say. You don't overshare in a desperate attempt to be understood, because you know not everyone is entitled to the deepest parts of you. And people feel that. They feel it in the pause you take before agreeing to something. They feel it in the way you maintain eye contact without aggression, in the way you shake hands firmly without gripping for dominance. They feel it in the way you walk into a room without shrinking, without seeking a corner to hide in, yet without needing to be the loudest in the space. I once watched a woman walk into a crowded room. She didn't speak for the first few minutes. She didn't introduce herself to everyone. She didn't wave her arms or laugh loudly to be noticed. But within moments, eyes had shifted toward her. Not because of what she wore, not because of any dramatic entrance, but because she carried herself like a person who belonged there. She didn't ask for permission to take up space. She didn't overcompensate to prove she deserved it. She simply was, and her quiet confidence spoke louder than any introduction could have. That's the beauty of self-worth. It's magnetic, but it's not needy. It doesn't demand attention, but it draws it. It doesn't chase, but it attracts. People who value themselves don't go hunting for scraps. They prepare for the feast that will come to them. And I'll tell you something else. Self-worth is not born from what other people think of you. It is not sustained by compliments, and it is not destroyed by criticism. It comes from an unshakable understanding of who you are and what you carry. That means even when someone underestimates you, you don't bend yourself to fit their vision. Even when someone tries to belittle you, you know they are speaking from their own limitations, not from the truth of your identity. When you truly value yourself, you become impossible to manipulate with praise or with disapproval. You no longer feel the need to shapeshift into what others expect just to be chosen. And because of that, you begin to attract people who are drawn to your essence, not to the masks you wear. There is a shift that happens when you realize you are not here to audition for anyone's love, anyone's friendship, anyone's respect. The roles you play are chosen by you, not assigned by those who think they can define your worth. And from that moment on, life starts to reorganize itself. You stop being invited into situations where you're only tolerated. You start being welcomed into spaces where you're celebrated. But it begins with you, always with you. The world is a mirror, and it will often reflect the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who must settle, you will keep finding yourself in rooms that demand you settle. If you see yourself as someone worthy of the best, you will stop knocking on the doors of people who offer you the bare minimum. Sometimes, valuing yourself will mean walking away from places where you have been comfortable. It will mean risking loneliness. It will mean disappointing people who have gotten used to you giving too much for too little in return. But every time you choose yourself, you are announcing silently to the universe, I will not be discounted. And here's the beauty. Once you begin living like you are worthy, the wrong people will start to disappear. They will not be able to breathe in the atmosphere of your self-respect, but the right people, the ones who honor you, will not only find you, they will recognize you instantly because you will speak the same unspoken language of value. So the question is never whether people will value you. The question is whether you will value yourself enough to set the example. Because once you do, the rest will follow. A person without boundaries is like a house without doors. Anyone can wander in, tracking mud on your floors, touching what's precious, taking what doesn't belong to them, and they will leave without so much as a thank you. And you'll stand there, wondering why you feel so exhausted, so depleted, so empty. Boundaries are not just rules. They are the silent walls that protect your spirit. They are the gates that say, you may enter, but only with respect. They are the locks that say, you cannot come in here if you mean harm. Without them, you will be treated as though you exist for everyone else's convenience, and you will be left wondering why you can't find peace. When you value yourself, you understand something powerful. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. A garden left without a fence will be trampled, not because the world hates flowers, but because there is nothing to tell the passerby where the path ends and the sacred ground begins. Your soul is that sacred ground. Your time, your energy, your dreams, these are your flowers. And if you don't protect them, they will be picked until nothing remains. Too many people confuse kindness with being boundaryless. They believe that in order to be good, they must always be available, always say yes, always stretch themselves beyond their limits to accommodate others. But kindness without boundaries is not kindness. It is self-erasure. You are not called to be a doormat in the name of love. Love is not meant to strip you of your dignity. The truth is, boundaries teach others how to love you. If you let people interrupt your rest, they will assume your rest is optional. If you answer calls at all hours, they will believe your peace can be disturbed whenever it suits them. If you never say no, they will stop believing you even have the right to say it. And I'll tell you, setting boundaries will test you. The moment you start, some people will push back. They will call you difficult. They will say you've changed. They will accuse you of not caring. But you must understand, your boundaries do not harm people who are healthy. They only inconvenience those who benefited from your lack of them. I have seen people set a single boundary and watch an entire circle of friends scatter. Not because the boundary was wrong, but because it revealed the truth. Some were only there for what they could take, not for who the person truly was. And as painful as that realization is, it is also freedom, because boundaries filter your life. They let the right people in, and they keep the wrong people out. There is a quiet strength that comes from being able to say, I hear you, but I can't do that. Or I care for you, but I can't give you that right now. Or I love you, but I will not allow this. Notice the power in those words. You are not attacking. You are not fighting. You are simply standing guard at the gate of your own life, deciding what comes in and what goes out. And you must remember, boundaries are not just about others. They are about you. You must also set boundaries with yourself. There will be days when you are tempted to overwork, to overgive, to overextend, because the world tells you that your worth is measured by how much you produce or how much you sacrifice. But self-respect sometimes means telling yourself no before you reach the point of burnout. Some people think boundaries will keep them alone, but the opposite is true. Boundaries create space for the right relationships to grow. Imagine a river without banks. It spills everywhere, soaking the ground, losing its direction, eventually becoming stagnant. But when it has boundaries, it flows with purpose, with strength, with life-giving force. That is you when you have boundaries. There is an ease that comes when you live with them. You no longer say yes out of guilt. You no longer explain your no for 30 minutes to soften the blow. You no longer spend sleepless nights replaying conversations because you felt you had to agree to something that didn't sit right with you. Boundaries bring peace because they create clarity. And clarity is a gift not only to you, but to those around you. Think of the relationships you've had where you knew where you stood. You didn't have to guess if you were overstepping. You didn't have to wonder if they were upset because you crossed an unspoken line. Healthy boundaries create safety. They say, this is okay, this is not, and I will be honest about it. That kind of honesty is a foundation on which trust can be built. You will find as you grow in self-respect that your boundaries become less about control and more about care. You stop setting them as walls to punish and start seeing them as doors to preserve. You don't need to keep everyone out. You just need to decide who gets the key. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this. When you hold your boundaries, you inspire others to hold theirs. People notice when someone moves through life with a sense of self-protection that is not bitter, but wise. You will be a mirror for them, showing that it is possible to be loving without being exploited, to be generous without being drained, to be open without being unguarded. Boundaries are not a cage. They are freedom. Freedom from resentment. Freedom from exhaustion. Freedom from the silent anger that builds when you keep giving more than you can afford. Freedom to live in peace. To choose where your energy goes, and to protect the beauty you carry inside. Every interaction you have with another person is a lesson. Sometimes you're teaching it without even knowing. You're teaching them how to speak to you, how to approach you, how far they can go before they cross a line. You're teaching them whether you'll fight for your dignity or surrender it in silence. The truth is, you are always showing people what is acceptable. Every time you let someone interrupt you without speaking up, you're teaching them that your voice can be cut off. Every time you let someone take from you without giving back, you're teaching them that your generosity is limitless, even to your own harm. Every time you accept disrespect without consequence, you're teaching them that disrespect is a language you understand. And people learn quickly. The first time they overstep and you say nothing, they take note. The second time, they push a little further. The third time, it's no longer an overstep, it's the new normal. That is how patterns are built, not just in your relationships with others, but in your relationship with yourself. You see, there is a direct link between what you tolerate and what you continue to receive. Life, people, situations, they rarely give more respect than you demand. If you are always bending, they will keep pushing. If you are always silent, they will keep speaking over you. If you always stay, they will never believe you'll leave. This is not about being hard or unkind, it's about being clear. Clarity is the compass for every relationship you have. You cannot expect people to read your mind, but you can expect them to follow the standard you set and the consequences you uphold. Without that, you are giving them permission to guess. And often, those guesses will lean toward what benefits them, not you. I remember hearing someone say, "People treat you the way you allow them to." At first, it sounded harsh. It made me defensive. But then I thought about the times I had been treated well. It was never by accident. I had either spoken up, walked away from what I didn't deserve, or surrounded myself with those who already understood respect. And the times I had been treated poorly, I could trace a path back to the moments I stayed silent, hoping things would get better on their own. But silence is an endorsement, and endurance without boundaries is a quiet yes to mistreatment. You are the first guardian of your own dignity. If you won't guard it, don't be surprised when others treat it carelessly. Sometimes teaching people how to treat you means you have to unlearn old habits. Maybe you were raised to avoid confrontation at all costs. Maybe you were taught that speaking up is disrespectful. Maybe you were conditioned to believe that being liked is more important than being respected. But hear me, likability without self-respect is a hollow victory. What good is it if the whole world smiles at you, but they step on you while doing it? When you decide to raise your standard, understand that not everyone will applaud. Some will resist because your lower standard benefited them. They will accuse you of changing, and you will have to smile and agree, yes, you have changed. You have grown. You have decided that your time, your heart, and your presence are valuable, and that you will no longer hand them over without thought. And you cannot just say this with words. You have to live it with action. Words can be sweet, but actions are the lesson. If you tell someone, "I won't accept this behavior," but then stay when they repeat it, you've just taught them that your boundary is a suggestion, not a rule. The most powerful teaching tool you have is follow-through. There is strength in walking away when necessary. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in certainty. Certainty that you deserve better, and certainty that you will find it. When you walk away from what dishonors you, you are sending out a message, not just to the person you're leaving, but to yourself and to the world. I am not afraid to lose what does not value me. This is why valuing yourself is not just about how you feel. It's about the standards you set and keep. It's about consistency. If you let one person get away with crossing the line because they didn't mean it, that line will blur for everyone else who's watching. People pay attention. Your children, your friends, your co-workers, they all learn from the way you hold your own boundaries. You are modeling behavior whether you want to or not. And when you hold those standards, something powerful happens. The right people rise to meet them. The ones who truly care for you will adjust, not out of fear, but out of respect. They will want to honor your boundaries because they honor you. The wrong people will fall away, not because you push them, but because they cannot survive in the environment of your self-respect. You are teaching the world every day, not in a classroom, not with a chalkboard, but with your choices, your boundaries, your actions. You are telling people how to approach you, how to speak to you, how to treat you when you are at your strongest and when you are at your most vulnerable. And if you do not like the lesson they've learned, it's never too late to rewrite the curriculum. The beauty is that teaching people how to treat you is not just about protecting yourself. It's about creating healthier relationships overall. When people know where you stand, they can stand beside you without confusion. There is less resentment, less unspoken tension, less walking on eggshells, because clarity is kindness and consistency is love in action. So the question is not whether people are capable of treating you better. The question is whether you will show them how, whether you will hold the line when it's tested, whether you will love yourself enough to stop teaching lessons you don't want repeated. There is a kind of loneliness that heals you, and there is a kind of company that breaks you. If you've ever sat at a table surrounded by people and still felt invisible, you know that being alone is not always about the absence of bodies. It's about the absence of belonging. Some people will keep you company, but they will keep you small. They will smile at you with their mouths, but chip away at you with their words. They will stay close enough to take from you, but never close enough to truly see you. And here's the truth many are afraid to face. Loneliness in the presence of the wrong people is far more dangerous than any solitude you'll ever choose for yourself. There is a peace that comes from stepping away from those who drain you. Yes, the silence will feel loud at first, the phone will ring less, your days will seem emptier, but give it time. That quiet will start to feel like safety. That empty space will start to feel like freedom, because you are no longer spending every ounce of your energy trying to be enough for people who have already decided you're not. Some of you have been keeping company with people who are comfortable with your weakness because it benefits them. They like you better when you doubt yourself. They like you better when you don't speak up. They like you better when you are easy to control, when you stay in the role they've chosen for you. But growth threatens people who have grown accustomed to your smaller version. When you start to value yourself, some people will leave, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your new boundaries expose their old intentions. You will notice that the ones who truly care will cheer for you when you rise, but the ones who were only there for the easy version of you will begin to pull away. Let them go. It is better to sit alone at a table set for one than to share bread with those who feed you poison. Better to walk the road by yourself than to walk it with those who lead you into shadows. Better to hear only your own voice than to be surrounded by voices that erode your soul. There is a myth that loneliness is the enemy. People rush to fill it as quickly as possible, with friends, with lovers, with noise. But not all companionship is good for you. Some will pull you down under the weight of their own misery. Some will plant seeds of doubt in your soil and then wonder why you no longer bloom. When you are alone, you can hear yourself again. You can think without interruption. You can remember who you are without the constant influence of other people's opinions. That is where clarity grows, in the quiet. That is where healing happens, in the space you give yourself to feel, to reflect, to rebuild. You will find that loneliness is not an absence, but an opportunity to choose again, to look at the people in your life and ask, do they make me better? Do they make me lighter? Do they honor me when I'm not in the room? If the answer is no, then solitude is the kinder choice. It takes courage to leave what is familiar, even when it's hurting you. It takes strength to walk away from a crowd and risk being misunderstood. People will question why you're alone. They will assume you've been abandoned, that something must be wrong. But sometimes being alone is not a sign that you've been left behind. It's a sign that you've moved ahead. Do not be afraid of the seasons where it is just you. In those seasons, you will find your resilience. You will learn how to enjoy your own company. You will discover that you can laugh alone, create alone, dream alone, and still be full. And when you can be full on your own, you will no longer accept half-hearted love just to avoid an empty seat. Your loneliness will not last forever. The right people will find you, not because you chased them, but because you built a life that called them in. And when they come, they will not require you to shrink. They will not dim your light so theirs can shine brighter. They will match your energy, respect your boundaries, and love you in the way you deserve to be loved. But you cannot make room for them if your table is crowded with those who drain you. You cannot welcome them in if your space is filled with people who take but never give, who stay but never grow, who smile but never see you. So if it comes down to a choice between being alone and being in the company of those who cannot love you well, choose loneliness, choose the quiet, choose the peace, choose the space where you can hear your own heartbeat again, because in that space you will learn the most important truth of all: you are not afraid to be without them. And when you are not afraid to be without them, you become free to wait for those who are worthy of you. The most valuable thing you will ever spend in this life is not money, it is your energy. You can earn money back. You can replace things you've lost. But the hours you give, the focus you pour, the emotional space you offer, once they're spent, they are gone. Every single day, you are making transactions with your energy, whether you realize it or not. And just like with money, if you spend recklessly, you will find yourself bankrupt. Energy is not just about physical strength. It's the mental, emotional, and spiritual force that fuels your entire life. When you wake up in the morning, you are handed a limited amount of it. And every decision you make, every conversation, every task, every relationship is a withdrawal from that account. If you keep giving it to things that drain you, you will find yourself exhausted before you even reach midday. But here is what happens when you value yourself. You start treating your energy like gold. You become intentional about where you spend it and who gets it. You stop giving your best hours to people who give you nothing but complaints. You stop pouring your creativity into places where it's met with indifference. You stop engaging in battles that have nothing to do with your growth. Think of your energy as light. If you point it in every direction without thought, it will scatter and fade. But if you focus it, if you direct it toward what matters, it becomes a beam strong enough to cut through the darkest room. That focus is what allows you to build, to heal, to grow, to create the life you actually want. When you value your energy, you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to convince those who have already decided not to see your worth. You stop attending every argument you're invited to. You realize that not every reaction deserves a response. Not every invitation deserves an RSVP. Not every voice deserves your listening ear. And here's the beautiful shift. You begin to invest your energy instead of just spending it. Investments grow, they multiply. When you give your time to relationships that nurture you, you get joy in return. When you give your focus to work that inspires you, you gain fulfillment. When you pour into your own health and learning, you increase your capacity for the future. These are the transactions that make you rich, not in dollars, but in strength, in clarity, in peace. The reason so many people feel constantly drained is because they are giving their energy to people and situations that do not return it. It's like pouring water into a cup with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you give, you will always end up empty. But when you choose wisely, when you give to places that refill you, your energy begins to replenish faster than you spend it. Some will not understand when you start guarding your energy. They will call you distant. They will say you've changed. And you will have, because the old you gave without thinking, the old you tried to be everywhere for everyone, the old you believed that self-sacrifice was the same as love, but the new you knows that if you give away all your energy to the wrong places, there will be nothing left for the right ones. You will notice something else. The more you value your energy, the less tolerance you have for chaos. Drama will stop being exciting. Toxicity will stop feeling familiar. You will no longer mistake intensity for intimacy. Instead, you will crave calm. You will seek stability. You will prioritize peace over popularity, and you will realize that is where your true wealth lies. It takes practice to protect your energy. You have to learn to say no without guilt. You have to learn to rest without apology. You have to learn to disconnect from the noise long enough to recharge. And most importantly, you have to learn to walk away from anything that demands more from you than it ever returns. There is no shame in stepping back from someone who constantly drains you. There is no guilt in choosing not to fight battles that will cost you more than they're worth. There is no selfishness in deciding that your health, mental, emotional, physical, matters more than proving your loyalty to someone who doesn't value it. When you see your energy as currency, you begin to make wiser trades. You stop making impulse decisions just to please others. You stop chasing after things that will leave you poorer in spirit. You start looking at every commitment and asking, will this feed me or will it drain me? And here's the reward. When you protect your energy, you show up better in the places that deserve you. You become more present with the people you love. You have more clarity for the work that fulfills you. You have more strength